Hi, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed last Tuesday's video on Order of Operations, or PEMDAS, that came out on Twitter. And this Friday we have something new to close out the first week of school. But before we do that, I want to give two great shout outs to schools that I get to work with. The first one is MS358 in Jamaica, Queens. You guys did awesome this week. And the second one, Bronx High School of Business, which is of course in the Bronx, New York, where I actually grew up. Great job, teams. You did a phenomenal job for the first week of school. And I will see you more next week. Now, here's what we're going to do for today. I started thinking about sites that I use as a teacher and as a coach to create curriculum and to create practice tests for the state test. And I figured there are lots of parents out there who could probably use this information too. So this is what my challenge is for today. Today's video, 3 top sites that parents can use to help their students practice for the New York State test. So if you're confused about Common Core or Regents or that state test that happens in April of this year, whether it's ELA or math, this is the video for you. Here are my top 3 websites. Engage New York is a great website for New York City or New York State teachers, especially public school teachers. But parents, there's great stuff in here for you too. There is a section for parents and families, so it's not exclusively for teachers, but I'm going to give you a little hint on how teachers can use this to help prepare for state exams at the end of the year. If you click on Common Core, there's a drop-down menu. And if you go all the way down to Common Core assessments, you'll find tabs that are really helpful. Now, if you have a kid in elementary school, 3rd through 8th grade, you would click up here. And if you have a high schooler as a kid, you can click over here for Regents exam information. I'm just going to show the middle school one because they're a little similar. And over here, what you're going to find is a 2019 resource. There's one for every single year, but we want to stay current. We want to know what's going to happen for this year. And you'll see 2 things. We're going to focus on this link right over here, the Educator Guide to 2019 Grades 3 through 8 Common Core Language, Arts, and Mathematics Test. So this isn't just a site that's for math. You can use it for ELA as well. But I'm more focused on helping math teachers and math families. So you can download this PDF. I already have it downloaded and saved on my computer. This is one of my main documents I refer to all year. But you can just click on View PDF. And I'm just going to show you a few areas to focus on here depending on the age of your kid. So I'm just going to skip through. There's tons of information about the exam itself and what to focus on and things of that nature, but you'll see an actual summary of what your child is learning in every single grade. And you'll see about 3 to 4 different things they emphasize in terms of their learning and understanding. We call them critical areas of focus. So this will be the first thing I would read as a parent of a kid in 3rd through 8th grade, just to get a sense of what my student is supposed to learn. And if we scroll a little bit more, you'll get to this page on content emphasis. So this graphic, really important. I use this with my teachers all the time because it's perfectly visual. We want to focus on the green, the major things to emphasize as we're setting up our instruction for the year. And what this means is, what are those topics and skills that we absolutely have to focus on during the school year and we want to give more attention to than others? Because it can get really easy to get stuck on a topic that we think is really important and not make the necessary connections to other topics. And we only have 180 school days in an actual year, and less than that since the exam this year is happening in April. So you can see here, the major topics are in green and they cover 65 to 75% of the test. That's most of the test right there, 70 to 80% of the points on the New York State exam. Then you have some supporting clusters and additional. And you connect this to, I'll just click over here, look, 3rd grade. You can get a sense of all the major topics that your kid is going to learn or should really focus on for the state test at the end of the year. So as a 3rd grader, there's operations and algebraic thinking, number and operations with fractions, and measurement and data. And you can get a little bit more information about what these different topics actually are. They go in deeper. And then they have something called standards. We'll talk about that a little bit more later if you have no idea what these letters and symbols actually mean. But I want to focus in a little bit on these little check marks. These check marks actually mean that we should give greater emphasis to these topics, meaning they are super important. We want to make sure that we're really getting a strong understanding of those specific skills or content clusters. And then there's something that says post, and you'll notice it over here. These are just topics that aren't really covered till after the state test, and they won't be assessed until your kid in the following year. So this third grader will have to focus on this standard 3 and D4 a little bit more in fourth grade because that's when he's going to be assessed. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you'll get more information about what the test is actually on, how long it is, how many questions, what types of questions, things like that. And I could always go in a little bit further on another video how I would use this with teachers so it makes sense. And you could even see what the rubric is when we're scoring the exam. It gives all this great information to teachers that parents should probably know about as well, and kids should definitely know. And even information in terms of reference sheets that kids will have to use when they get to that upper level in math. So that's our very first secret site number 2, corestandards.org. Remember those symbols that we didn't really understand under standards? This is how we can actually figure out what they really mean. So this site is all Common Core, and you can use it in any state, not just New York. And if you scroll down a little bit to explore the Common Core, you can read the actual standards. And again, I'm focusing on math, but this is really helpful for ELA too. I should do some work for ELA. And I'm going to look at sixth grade, for example. When you click on any grade, it can be any grade from kindergarten all the way on, you can see all the major topics. We call them domains that your kids will learn about. Like these are the major strands. So for example, in sixth grade, they focus on ratios and proportions, number systems, expressions and equations. That's just algebra, geometry, and stats and probability. So let's just click on, actually let's look at third grade for a minute because that OA standard was weird. It just stands for operations and algebraic thinking. And over here, I can find all the different standards and it will give me a little bit more information about each one. So let's say I go back to that first website that I talked about and you want to pick one of those checked off standards. I can just find it here and click on it and it'll tell me a little bit more. So for example, right over here it's telling me use multiplication and division within 100 to solve word problems in situations involving equal groups, arrays, and measurement quantities. Example, by using drawings and equations with symbols for the unknown number to represent the problem. So if I want to know exactly what my kid should be doing, this is where I can look. And it's telling me pretty much that exact same thing. They have to be able to multiply and divide with numbers less than 100, solving word problems. That's basically it, and they can use all different kinds of ways. So this will be the second site I would actually use. All teachers use it when we want to understand what the curriculum is and what kids should actually be learning. If you have a high schooler, there are also standards here for them. So I can just click on the same ones. Let's click a standard, and this actually gives me all 4 standards. So any of these up here, here they are right here. So I'm just looking at this one. It sounds so complicated. CCSS, that just means Common Core State Standard for math. High school algebra, that's just the HSA. And CED, creating equations. And it's up here, creating equations. And we're describing numbers and relationships. So that's the standard here. Create equations in 2 or more variables to represent relationships between quantities. Why I love this site is because I can get a little bit more information on the standard. And if anything, I could always click this standard or do another Google search or go onto YouTube to find out more information about these questions. So that's secret tip number 2. I hope you're all ready for the number 1 teacher tip for parents who have students who are taking math. And I go right back to Engage New York, and they're actually 2 different sites. So if you're a middle schooler or an elementary school parent, this site is the one you want to go to on Engage New York. And what it is you can actually see for every single year going back to at least, you can go back all the way to 2013 are all the release questions in ELA and math for every single state test. And what this means, I'm not going to click the educator guide because we already saw it. What this means is you can see what kids were tested for each and every year for the past few years in New York State, all Common Core state questions. So we'll tie this all together. You already know what they're going to learn and what to emphasize. And then we looked at Common Core to see what those actual standards were. Like, what does it really mean? And we can read it. Now we can get examples of the types of questions your kid is going to use. And guess what? Teachers use this site all the time to come up with questions for quizzes and tests every single time. And over here, you'll see on the top for each grade, it'll give you release questions. There is ELA on the first part, but I'm going to go down to math. And for every grade, you'll see two topics. One are released questions, and the other one are scoring materials. Yes, they actually have the scoring materials, and this is available to everyone, every parent. I don't know why parents don't actually know about this, but teachers use this all the time. So let's say I have a fourth grader. I want to get a sense of what kinds of questions. I can download a test and give them to my kid for practice. And you don't have to just use 2019. I can use tons of different years to give more and more practice. So I'm going to just click PDF for a minute just so we can look at the state test. And these are all released questions, meaning they're available to the public. Any question that was not released is just something they're holding on to. They may have it at a later date, or it just wasn't a good question. And it's in the exact same format. So here are all the multiple choice questions. Here's questions 1, 2, 3, 4. So far up, you can see they skipped from 5 to 8, meaning questions 6, 7th, and 8th were not released. So the entire test is here. All the multiple choice. And even part 2 is here on the PDF. I'd probably print this out for my kids so they can write all over it. And if you keep on going past the multiple choice, you start to get the open response questions too. So things they'll have to write. And so I like giving this to kids. I actually use these tests all the time to help prep my students, and I give them for interim assessments just so I can see what progress my kids are making in class. And I'm guaranteeing you, teachers use this site all the time to get these release questions. And guess what, parents? Here's the answer key. It's right here at the end for every release question, and you can see what standard was being covered. So you can see how, well, the thing we read before, if it didn't make sense to you and you want to see what kind of question, I can look over here and find the standard that it was assessed and just find the question and go back and read that question. And parents, guess what? This is what teachers use to make up the questions for your test. If they're looking for a geometry problem, they'll go, okay, let me look at question 5 and see how it matches. And they'll do stuff like that all the time. And not only that, but for the short response questions, because that's for multiple choice, if you go to scoring materials, actually let me just use the PDF, you'll get, again, a rubric on how they score each question. So here's question 39. It'll tell you what the correct answer is, what the best, exemplary responses could be, and they'll tell you if there's more than one different way they can solve it. And then they'll give you examples of kid work and how they would score it. So this is a 2-point question. So this kid got a 2 out of 2 and tell you why. And they'll even show what ones will look like. And this is great because then kids can look at the work and evaluate what is it about this answer that makes it a 2-point or a 1-point or even a 0-point. So I would use this over here as well. So this is part of the same site, and I'm scrolling pretty fast just to get to the end. Yep, and they just give every single type of question here. It's a nice full guide for every single question on the state test. So this is elementary school. But let's say you have a high schooler. Well, for a high schooler, I will go to a site called JMAP, jmap.org. And on JMAP, you can find the same types of things for high schoolers. You can find Regents information. So I'll go to AI, which is just Algebra 1. And you can get information about different types of topics and how they connect. But here's another thing. I can go right here to Regents exams. And guess what, parents? And guess what, kids? Here is every single Regents that was released for math in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 from 2013 all the way to 2019. I like to use PDFs, just to be fair, and these are Regents exams, so they're given in January, June, and August, and there are slight differences between the different ones. So you can do the same thing. You can click onto, I'll click 2019, and boom, here you go again. Here's a Regents, full Regents exam, every single question released exactly as they will get it if it was on the state test, each and every one. And just like in elementary school, if you keep scrolling, yes, you get for the short response problems, again, same thing, a rubric showing what a kid's work can look like and what their response could actually look like. So we get all this information here. This is how teachers can learn to grade it. I want to scroll up a little bit because I think there's something else in here that's really helpful for parents. Sorry if it's scrolling a little fast, but I want to try and find this. Come on, scrolling through. Tells you, here's for the model response set. Boom. But here you go. Here's also the answer key. Well, this tells you just what the questions are, how many points, and what cluster. So same site we went to before for Common Core Standards, you can find out what the question is and what actual topic it connects to, and number of points. So all this is here. And I can also find, I know it's here. Oh, here it is. Here's the answer key for the multiple choice. So if you have a high schooler and who's really into studying or needs help studying, I give them this site. Go to jmap.org, and I would just have them take practice tests over and over and over. And then just, here's the answer key. So they can see how they actually did for the multiple choice part. And you can see that if they keep going, they also have the rubrics for the second part, for the constructive response. They can see how they did on those parts as well. So I hope you find this helpful. So there you have it, 3 websites teachers use in New York to create curriculum, scope and sequence, and practice exams to prepare for New York State exams in elementary, middle school, and high school. If you like this video, please share with your friends, and I would love to hear what you think in the comments section. If you have any other topics or ideas you'd like to see, just please let me know, and I'll also have my email at the end of this video. Have a great weekend, and even better, have a fantastic school year.